It's fight week and UFC 291 is this Saturday, and we have one of the most stacked main cards of the year. Mark and I are going to go over our predictions for the card, but before we do, if you're new here, make sure you subscribe as we have brand new videos every single week. So, Mark, let's start with the main event. We have Dustin Poirier versus Justin Gaethje for one of the most prestigious belts in all of combat sports, the BMF belt. Obviously, it's clear who my prediction is because I have won a lovely shirt in honor of Dustin Poirier that looks more like Parker Porter has put on Dustin Uniform's clothes, but never mind. But what's your prediction for this fight and why?
Well, I'm going to agree with you, Dwain. And while I don't have the shirt, I'm just going to keep doing the little hair flick throughout because I'm going Dustin Poirier as well. And I think he's going to get a finish just like the first outing these two guys had some years ago. I think Dustin's is just that stone's throw away from a title shot completely. After he's beat Justin Gaethje, I think it's well in line for a title shot and he's going to get him out of there. I think Gaethje's too wild.
Yeah, I think so as well. I'm going for Dustin Poirier as well. I think third round, fourth round TKO. I think when we get into these later rounds, especially when it's at elevation, their gas tank's going to be a lot lower. Justin throws like an idiot. Everyone knows that. And he's going to be knackered in that third and fourth rounds. And I think Dustin's just going to take advantage of that and finish him quite late in the card, but still anyway. Do you see anything different from their rematch? Because obviously they fought quite a while ago, but have you seen enough improvement from either of them? Or are they essentially the same fighters as last time?
It's a strange one, is that because they were both elite fighters at the time, and then they've both gone on to fight elite fighters and have title shots, that kind of thing. So it's very much like they've both remained static in the rankings. Yeah. Maybe just a little bit of movement here and there, but the once again fighting these two when they're both absolutely fantastic. I'm not besmirching the name of Justin Gaethje here, but I just think Dustin Poirier does have a more well-rounded game all completely. But I'm going to say I think Dustin gets the job done a little earlier than that, to be honest, Dwayne. I think it's going to be like a second round, something like that. Just going off the past fights that he's had, I think he's got the skills to be able to get it done quick and a very, very short night at the office.
Yeah, you could be right there, especially with that elevation and how low their gas tanks can be. But Mike, with this BMF belt, we've got to talk about it at least a little bit. Do you think this elevates the fight in any way, or do you not really care about it?
Honestly, I've warmed up to it. When it first came about a few years ago with Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal, I thought, this just sucks. This is so corny and it smells like UFC in 2006, something that had done back then. But maybe it's just because of this fight itself, it's deserving of it. You know, whether you agree with the belt or not, this is one of them fights where you go, yeah, that should be, that makes sense, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, I don't know about the idea of defending it. I kind of like that it is a little novelty thing when there's a little bit of rivalry there and you're like, what the hell is going to happen in this fight? I like that it's brought out every now and again for that. It's like a Hell in the Cell match to win.
I agree and disagree with you at the same time. So I definitely agree. I have warmed up to the BMF thing quite a lot, actually. I think these are two guys who could really fight for that sort of belt. They'll put on a fun fight. But I disagree with not defending it. I think that's kind of what ruined it with Jorge. I think he won that belt from a doctor's stoppage, and then we never saw it again. You think, well, what's the point of having it? But yeah, maybe it doesn't have to be defended every single time, but definitely defended more often. But moving on to the light heavyweights, we have Jan Blachowicz versus Alex Pereira, who's making his debut at light heavyweight. Mark, what's your prediction for this fight and why?
Dwayne, I'm probably as excited for this fight as what I am the main event. I'm so hyped to see Alex Pereira going up a weight. He was a huge middleweight, always has been. Everyone's always known that. And maybe it's an unpopular opinion, but I think Alex is going to be able to get it done. I think he's going to be able to walk Jan down. We can't judge every fighter from their last performance, but I think Jan's last performance to go 5 rounds with a draw with Ankalaev, I think Pereira is going to have the power to be able to get it done. Jan hasn't had a finish since he beat Dominic Reyes for the title. You know, and I'm not saying it's all about a finish, but Alex has been to the 5th round as well as Jan. But I just think that power, even though he's moving up a weight division, I think that left hook is going to find its home earlier, maybe 3rd round or something. What do you think?
Yeah, I say exactly what you're saying. I mean, there is no denying that Alex Pereira is incredibly dangerous. That left hook is just the death touch, isn't it? So you have to be so careful. So I wouldn't be surprised if he did knock out Jan, but Jan's not been finished in a long, long time. So maybe that's not quite on the cards, but we'll have to wait and see. My prediction, though, is Jan by decision. I think he's just too skilled a fighter. He's too big. He's too strong. I think he is better almost everywhere than Alex. I think he's a fantastic boxer. He's got fantastic wrestling. He's got the submission threat. And I think with that combination and that ability to shake things up, it's going to be too much for Alex to handle. Don't forget, if Izzy can take you down and hold you, Jan's just going to, it's going to be a field day for Jan. But I do worry that Jan is going to push that wrestling too much and tire himself out. Because if he gets tired in that 3rd round and he slows down for a second, that's it. He's got to be perfect for all 3 rounds, doesn't he?
I get what you're saying. Yeah, that's right as well. You know, it's only 3 rounds. I understand what you mean. And Jan is a natural light heavyweight. Alex probably is a natural light heavyweight. Let's face it. You know, with the size.
I think Alex is a natural super heavyweight. He is massive.
Yeah, I think so.
He's head alone.
He's sat there. His next fight will be Butterbean. But I think with all that in mind, I think all it takes from Alex is that one left. That's it. And I think he can do a lot of damage, even in the weight class above. Jan's been cracked a lot of times. I'm nowhere near writing Jan off because I love Polish power, but he's in his late 30s now. Alex is 32, maybe 33, something like that. Might not even be that age. Might be 31. But I think he's going to be able to get it done. But whatever happens, I don't think this fight is going to be boring. I think the fans are going to leave happy seeing this.
Yeah, it's going to be an incredibly exciting fight. And we don't know at this moment in time if it is a 3 or a 5 round fight, because you know what Dana White's like. It could come out Tuesday evening randomly. Oh, by the way, it's a title fight. I hope not, though. I hope it does just stick to 3 rounds, because I don't want to see these guys fighting for a title and preparing for 5 rounds when they're prepared for 3. But let's move on. We have Wonderboy Stephen Thompson versus Michael Pereira. Mike, what's your prediction for this fight and why?
I think Stephen Thompson is going to get the decision win over this. Stephen Thompson is 41, 42. He shows no sign of slowing down. I swear, and this is to my friends who, I try and get them into UFC to make them fans. I always say, tune into a Stephen Thompson fight. He's the most well-rounded kickboxer, maybe not wrestler, we've seen that in the past, and he's the most entertaining to watch. But up against Michael Pereira, he's wild. It's like when you're button mashing on UFC 4 when you don't know how to actually play it. Anything can happen. What do you think? Do you think he's going to get a spinning cartwheel kick knockout or something?
No, I don't actually. I'm leaning exactly the same as you. I think that Wonderboy is going to get a decision win here. I think he's too clinical, too precise. And I think Michael Pereira's wild striking, as though entertaining as it is, I don't think that's going to overwhelm Wonderboy. I think this is now precision versus sort of this wild technique. And I think Wonderboy is going to get that win there. And I think you're right with Wonderboy. He's the kind of guy you say, if you're going to get into UFC, watch this guy fight. He's one of my absolute favorite fighters, and I love seeing him fight. And hopefully he does one last little run. And I'm excited to see, even though he's like old as time, he still seems super active. And it feels like maybe there's still one more run left in him, but we'll have to wait and see.
Well, you see his last fight against Kevin Holland. There is no sign of him slowing down. That was an absolute war. Don't forget, he won that fight by stoppage via Kevin Holland breaking his hand. But I 100% agree with you there. I think precision beats the wild striking attempts from Michael Pereira.
For sure. And let's move on to someone else's oldest time, Tony Ferguson versus Bobby Green. Mark, what's your prediction for this fight and why?
I can't bet against Bobby Green in this, just going off Tony Ferguson's last 5 outings, is it? Something? Yeah. I think Bobby, he may even get a TKO finish. I don't think he's going to be able to knock Ferguson out cold like Chandler did a couple of years ago. I think Bobby's just going to be able to wear him down, maybe even get like a second, maybe even third round TKO. Look, Tony's last fight against Nate, let's face it, Dwain, it looked like slow motion. But I'm curious to hear what you think before I go and besmirch the name of Tony Ferguson.
Yeah, with Tony Ferguson, it's very difficult to bet on him now, isn't it? He's much older. He's not the fighter he once was, but I am going to bet on him this time. I think Bobby Green sucks. I think Bobby Green's terrible. I really do. And I think when we look at Tony, we go, oh yeah, he's not the fighter he once was, but he's losing to elite level guys. And don't forget, I know Nate Diaz, I know he's not this high elite level guy, but his jiu-jitsu is fantastic. And that's what ended Tony there. Don't forget, Tony nearly made Diaz quit just from the leg kicks alone. I do not think Bobby Green is a skilled, high enough level fighter for Tony. I genuinely think Tony's going to get the decision win here. And I know a lot of people might laugh at me and say I'm an idiot, but I just don't think Bobby Green's good enough. And that's what it boils down to me.
It could well be possible. I just think Bobby will have quite a significant speed advantage. I mean, look, the fan in me, because I am a fan of Tony Ferguson. I know it doesn't really sound like it with what I've just been saying, but the fan in me would love to see Tony get a win, even if he just gets this one win over Bobby Green and calls it a day. But I just think Bobby's going to be a little too much for Tony.
Yeah, you could be right, but we'll have to wait and see. And I'm still really excited for this fight. But opening up the card, we have a really, really fun fight. Michael Chiesa versus Kevin Holland. Mark, what's your prediction for this fight and why?
This is very much a dark horse fight that a lot of people are overlooking just because of how much of an absolute cracker of a card this is. I think we're going to see the return of Michael Chiesa with a submission victory in this. I think he's going to be able to wrap himself around Kevin Holland's ridiculously slender man built body and find the submission win somewhere. What do you think?
Yeah, Michael Chiesa, I think a lot of people sleep on him and how sort of skilled and talented he is. But I am going to sleep on him again. I'm picking Kevin Holland to win by decision. I think over 3 rounds, I think Kevin has elevated his ground game quite a lot. He has been able to show that he's got now decent takedown defense. Don't forget, I know he fought Hamzat and Hamzat mauled him, but he still managed to stand up, and that's an achievement just on its own.
Yeah.
So I don't think Michael Chiesa's got that speed and strength to sort of overwhelm Kevin Holland. So I'm going to go Kevin Holland by a late knockout, I think. Maybe in the 3rd round. Yeah. I think something flashy is just going to catch Chiesa. But that's the main card. Mark, is there any fights on the prelims that you think people should be looking out for?
There is the return of Derek Lewis, the Black Beast. He is against Marcos de Lima. Now, I've been watching Marcos on some of the fight nights over the past year because obviously it's a good time for me during the day. Do not sleep on him, and especially going up against someone like Derek Lewis, who, let's face it, Dwayne, Derek needs a win. So, yeah. I mean, I think whenever heavyweights are fighting, it could be fireworks at any point. But do you have a prediction for this fight at all?
No, I don't. The trouble is with heavyweights, anything can happen. 1 week, you could be the number 1 contender, and then you're getting knocked out 3 weeks in a row on prelims of a fight night. It's too wild a division for me to make a real prediction for it.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, personally, I'm going to go with Marcus. I think Derek Lewis just doesn't seem to be, he doesn't have the championship mentality that we spoke about before. And I think Marcus is hungry and he wants to prove himself. This is a great stepping stone for his career. But moving on, Dwayne, something that was supposed to be on this fight that isn't now is Paulo Costa has now been moved. He's been removed from UFC 291 and he's been replaced, and he's going to fight Khamzat Chimaev later on in the year in Abu Dhabi. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's all just so weird. Paulo Costa has this really, really strange relationship with the UFC. They seem to hate him and love him all in one fell swoop. It's so confusing. He was supposed to fight Robert Whittaker. He was supposed to fight Ikram. But he said the whole time, I've not signed these contracts. I'm not fighting these guys. So why is it the UFC keep announcing these fights and keep it going basically all the way through until the couple of weeks before? And now it feels like Costa's been boosted up to an even bigger fight with fighting Hamzat. I am really, really interested for that fight, though. I think it's going to be a lot more exciting than people think. I think a lot of people think Hamzat's just going to run through Costa, but they forget how strong and physical Paulo Costa actually is.
Is Costa, I think, is the UFC equivalent of Azog the Defiler from The Hobbit. He's such a monster. Like, excuse the comparison there. But honestly, I'm in the same boat as well. I'm so excited and I'm so intrigued in that fight in general. The thing I've said to you a couple of times, Wayne, but I'm going to repeat it as well. What I don't get about Paulo Costa is people hated him after the Yoel Romero decision in 2019. They hated him. They were swearing that he lost that fight. They hated him in the build-up to the Israel Adesanya fight. Hated him for, like drinking the bottles of wine. Hated him for missing weight against Marvin Vettori. He shares a few memes, talks about secret juice, and all of a sudden everyone loves him. I don't understand it. I know he's fought Luke Rockhold since then as well, but he's not very active either. He's active on Twitter. Like a new Conor McGregor.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? And it's just weird how fickle sort of MMA fans can be. And I'm fickle as well. Like, I was the same. I hated Costa, and I'm like, oh, he posted a funny meme. He's hilarious. Do you know what I mean? And then you're like, oh, I hope this guy wins. It's just funny how quick we can turn. But I do think that's all we've got time for. Thank you for watching. If you can like, comment, and subscribe, it really does help us out.